All right, super simple knife chat for you. I really just wanted to touch on this because ultimately in the kitchen, knife cuts matter. The way that we cut our foods, it shows up in our, end result. So like for instance, if we have equally cut even sizes that we've cut, that means that our cooking, when we cook our food, everything's going to cook evenly as well. So that is actually one of the biggest reasons why knife cuts is so important. So everything cooks properly at the same, at the same rate, same time. You don't imagine having large chunks of, carrots and little tiny chunks of carrots. It's all going to cook at different times. So that's why this is very important. Also makes your food and everything really just present really nicely. So we're starting with knife cuts, or starting with very simple approaches, nothing too crazy. Just want to get you started in case this is a new topic for you. First and foremost, I just want to talk a little bit about the way that we hold our knife. So when I first, started holding, I guess, like a more professional chef knife, I didn't hold it the way that I hold it nowadays. I actually can't even remember how I quite held it back then, but I do know that this is kind of an area that can be really new to people, so I want to make sure that I kind of share the proper way to hold your chef's knife. So ultimately, you want to have your pointer finger, wrapped around this part of the knife. This gives if you hold it right here, it's going to give you a nice, strong, good grasp for your cutting. So ultimately, at this point, you can see I can easily glide. I can easily cut through. So holding your knife in this way is going to give you a nice strong grasp. It's going to give you control, and you're going to be able to cut much more efficiently when you hold it in this way. So remember, wrap your finger around here, grasp here, and then you'll have a nice control of the knife. Again, if you have to choke back a little bit, depending on what feels good for you, but just make sure you have that nice, strong grasp that feels comfortable. Whatever feels comfortable in your hands, as long as you have a nice control. It should feel like you own this knife, like you control it, okay? Okay, with that being said, also when we're cutting, I want you to kind of keep something in mind. We definitely, I'll show you through the process, but you're going to find that we're not really like, chopping. We're not kind of doing this action. The focus is really having this nice rocking motion. So when you're cutting, I want you to get in the habit of holding the knife strongly, comfortably. The main goal is really having a nice comfortable hold, and then just being able to rock. Okay, so you're going to go forward with the front of your knife, come down. Forward with the front of your knife, come down. Okay, so this is kind of what I want you to get in the habit of if you don't already do it. Now, if you already do it, you're good. But if it's something new to you, then definitely work on that area. All right, so we're going to focus on some really basic cuts, some really classic cuts. And basically, when you know the technique overall, you can then size it as you need. So if you need very fine cuts, you can make them smaller. If you need larger cuts, you do the same kind of approach, but just kind of work with the size that you need. So we're going to cut off the ends of our carrot, and we're going to give ourselves a nice about, a couple inches there on each of our carrot. Again, so this is something else I want you to keep in mind when we're cutting, is the other hand you want to always have in a sort of claw motion. So as you're cutting here, if you can have your fingers like this, you will always be safe. So basically it's like this. If you have your fingers out like this, you're gonna be open to a lot of possible bad outcomes. So make sure that you are working with what's called the claw. It keeps things in place, and it also keeps your fingers nice and safe, okay? So keep the claw in mind, and make sure to practice it if it's something new to you. Okay, ultimately, we want a nice flat edge. Anytime we're going to cut something, our goal is to have some sort of a flat edge. So now that I have a flat edge, I'm going to go ahead and move my cutting board a little closer to me. Also make sure that your cutting board's not too far, not too close, really comfortable. So what feels good, if you feel like you're too choked up, make sure to scoot out. If you feel like you're too far back, just find that even spot, okay? Also, a good rule of thumb, I didn't actually do it here, but putting a wet paper towel or something underneath your cutting board will keep it in place. So keep that in mind too. Okay, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna have multiple flat sides. I'm gonna show you a couple different cuts with the carrot, okay? But this cut right here is basically what's called like a bâtonnet, okay? And it's a French term. So basically it's like a large dice. If I were to dice here, if I wanted large dice for like say a soup or something, I could do this and then I could basically just break this up into 3. But I want to show you some other cuts, so I'm not going to do that. But you can see if I were to, I would have some nice large dice, right? But I want to show you more of a medium dice, and I actually might show you this a smaller dice on here. So, and as well as some other cuts. So this would be 1 slice in between, 1 slice between. Okay, and now we have what is considered, these would actually be bâtonnets as well because they're pretty large, large strips. So we got some large strips there, but we want some medium dice. So we are actually going to take our strips and we are going to do our claw. We're going to do our rocking motion. We're going to make our medium dice, okay? Perfect little cubes, nicely cut. All right, so I'm gonna show you again, but I'm gonna show you some other cuts, okay? So I'm gonna make my flat side, remember, flat side down. Give us a nice sturdy, something to work with, okay? All right. All right, so now I actually want to show you a little bit of a different cut. So I did 3 this time instead of 2 because I'm going to make smaller dice, okay? So the smaller the dice, the more strips that you're going to want to make. So keep that in mind. Okay, getting everything flopped around here because I'm talking. All right, so I'm going to keep these together and I'm going to show you, these are what would be called julienne cuts, basically another French term. But you can really just think of like strips and cubes or sticks and cubes if you want, if you will. But ultimately, these are a julienne cut. Again, they can be finer if you made them, if you cut more the first time. Now, with that being said, we're going to make a more of a smaller dice by using our smaller strips, right? So if we wanted a smaller dice, we can just do the same thing. Again, and don't have too many, if there's too many, you know, it's like if this was too many carrots, just move some and just do a little bit at a time for you, especially when you're practicing, okay? You just want to have a nice, good grasp. You don't want to have it to be, you don't want it to be overwhelming. Okay? Now we have smaller cubes, right? Because we had smaller strips and now we have smaller cubes. Bam! Look how cute these babies are. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and show you one more time. Okay. All right. This one's actually, I was going to show you a large dice, but that's not very large. This, you'll probably end up with some medium dice with that. So again, let's see. Just get my flat side. Okay. And obviously because every, you know, okay, so and then you don't have to waste these. You can use these for, you know, other things. You can use it for chicken stock, but just know the peel of carrot is pretty bitter. It doesn't have the same sweet flavor, so just keep that in mind. You can do a lot of things with these though. Okay, so with that being said, if I was going to use this, just an example, you know, some larger, larger dice, just to just to give you a, this one was a little smaller, but you get the idea. Your larger dice, babies, got some babies here, and some medium dice, okay? So basically this would be more of a larger dice, medium dice, and a fine dice, or a brunoise, small dice. In French it would be called brunoise, which is just means baby dice basically. But there you go.